What is up, everybody? This is Martin Anaya, and you are watching California Film Foundation's Film School 101, The Breakdown. And I am very excited to be joined this evening by the lovely and talented Lulu. Hey, Lulu, what's up?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am blessed, girlfriend, and thank you for joining me here. We've known each other for a little bit of time, and I thought, this would be just wonderful if we could bring you in as a co-host this evening and kind of have you help me kind of, really welcome these wonderful guests. But do you mind telling the folks at home, how did we meet? How did you and I meet?
We met on Fashion on Film before COVID. So it was before COVID. I came in there. I was going to walk for one of your designers, and I ended up bumping into you, and you're like, come here. Come do this skit right here. And I was like, no, I only came to walk, but that's how we got introduced to each other. And it was
let me ask you, for the people that don't know what Fashion on Film is, because the California Film Foundation, we do a lot of things. Obviously, the Sacramento International Film Festival, and by the way, this is the 27th year of the Sacramento Film Festival, and despite COVID, we're doing it anyway. And despite COVID, we're going to have a grand finale coming up December 14th to 18th. But a lot of people don't know a lot of the different things that we do. How would you if somebody was just going to ask you what's Fashion on Film, what would you tell them?
It's amazing. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest things at that time when I started my fashion career that I was in, dealing and meeting a lot of different writers and producers like yourselves, other people that are either fashion designers or models, actors, actresses, and it just all comes to one. So I've never walked in a fashion show to where it also had to do with acting and directing and doing things. So it was amazing. A lot of fun people.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. Well, I guess what we like to call it is kind of like a mixed media presentation. It's part live fashion show and then part like film exhibition. But by the way, I just want to thank you for being such a good sport to help me co-host this, because I brought her in without a whole heck of a lot of preparation. But I know. But the thing is that you've got this natural capability of just kind of like, what is that about? I mean, what would you say? What is that quality that some people have? Just the ability to just wing it.
I don't know. I think it just has to do with my jobs. I mean, I've worked at the school district for years. I've coached for years. So having just to throw myself in different situations or pull myself out of certain situations, I might have come from that. Yeah.
Well, whatever it comes from, I want to thank you for it, and just welcome you to the team here on The Breakdown. So we really, really much appreciate it. By the way, unless I'm remiss, we got a guy in the background here. He's kind of shy. I don't know if we can get him on here, but he's working on the ones and the twos in the background. Mr. Johnny Bordeaux. Johnny, where you at, brother? Hey,
woo!
What's going on, man? Are you ready to do this thing tonight?
Oh yeah, I'm well equipped.
All right. Well, if I holler and scream at you a little bit, I'm gonna apologize right now in advance, okay?
Oh well, that's you, Marty. I know.
Oh, he knows me too well. All right, Johnny, thank you very much, and we really appreciate you. And Johnny, if you would, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and introduce. Go ahead, and we're going to go ahead. You can go off now, Johnny. See what I got? I got to direct. Well, what I'm going to do though, the reason why Johnny's going off, because he's got to put all of his attention. What we're going to do is we're going to bring on the first of two guests. Now, as you know, we teased this program that we're going to have two guests that are Sacramento based. So I know this thing goes all over the place, goes international. And you think like, in a town like Sacramento, you might think like, well, if anybody does anything, they go somewhere else, right? And they're no longer living in Sacramento. I can name a lot of people who've come through the doors here at the Sacramento Film Festival and California Film Foundation who've done just that. But sometimes they stick around, right? And sometimes they even come back. So there are two gentlemen this evening that we're going to be talking to. Later on, we're going to be talking to a gentleman named John Dahl Honore. And John Dahl Honore, you may not be aware, is a major deal in the entertainment industry, because every time you watch TV, a lot of shows that you watch, that background music is something that he had to create in a hurry. Sometimes it's what they call sound-alike music. So it has to be evocative of a flavor that you may have heard somewhere else in some other incarnation, but he's got to bring it into a modern kind of a contemporary feel, and also not get into any copyright trouble and things like that. So they actually hire composers to do this. So it's actually fascinating. We're going to talk to John a little bit later about what he does, and also about his film composition work for movies that maybe you could produce, and maybe, fingers crossed, you might even be able to get somebody like this, a major talent. What are you thinking? What are you thinking, Lulu?
I was going to say that I can produce. I mean, I don't know. No,
Lulu, I got all the faith in the world that you can do all this stuff. I ain't worried about you whatsoever. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a gentleman who has been a friend of mine for a long time, and he's been among his other accolades. I mean, he's worked with a lot of people. Lulu was just bringing up that he'd worked with Jason Alexander. And help me out, Lulu. Who's Jason Alexander?
He's from Seinfeld. This is a gentleman from Seinfeld.
Yeah, not Kramer, but Costanza from Seinfeld. And I just absolutely love his work. He's worked with the likes of Ed Asner as not only an actor, but also a screenwriter. And the way we know him is that he's pretty much the impresario of our screenwriting conference, the American Screenwriting Conference, which will happen this year with our finale to the Sacramento Film Festival between December 14th and 18th. So we're going to talk to Mr. Richard Broadhurst right now, talk to him a little bit about his career and about his life as a screenwriter and an actor. Oh, Richard.
So I'm here. I'm
Richard.
Here. Yes.
Howdy.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Loud and clear, brother, loud and clear. And, I think maybe what we could start, because, we don't get a lot of time, and you've been gracious over the years of volunteering your time and helping screenwriters, budding screenwriters with our American Screenwriters Conference, Lou Hunter, Don Spinella, and all the other folks that have been through the years supportive of what we do. But for those people that don't know you, would you mind telling us how you got your start in the entertainment industry?
Well, you might notice the saxophone on the wall behind me. I actually started life out as a musician, and sort of drifted into theater. Left Kansas and ended up in New York City. Actually, I left Manhattan, Kansas, and ended up in Manhattan, New York.
Wow.
And that's sort of where I started making my way. I think when I first went there, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had done a lot of acting in, like most people in high school and college. So when I got to New York, I didn't really know what I was doing. I can tell you some funny stories, but I won't waste your time with those. But one of the things I learned very early on was that I needed to get my tail into some really good acting classes and I was fortunate enough to work with some of the best teachers actually in the country. And they sort of steered me in the right direction. Then I started auditioning and working. I did a lot of regional theater. I worked at some stages. I never made it to Broadway, but I did work a lot in the city. Worked on soap opera a little off and on as a sort of usually it was a day player, which means I had a guest shot. I never had a regular role, but I worked on a couple of different soaps. And then for a while, to make ends meet, I started reading scripts for CBS. They asked me to read. I needed the extra money, so I started reading scripts. And after reading scripts for 2 years, and in that 2-year period, I think I only read 2 scripts that I recommended. And at one point,
wow.
I thought to myself, "Well, I can do this."
Well, okay. Now let me jump in real quick, because the thing that occurs to me is, I would bet that being an actor must have informed you as a screenwriter. And did it? And if so,
yeah, very much so. I mean, I think that probably that's, part of being an actor meant, doing classes and reading a lot. I would read anywhere from 4 to 5 plays a week. And
wow.
that process also involves, if you're working on a scene, you have to understand character and you have to do history of your characters. And when I approach my writing, whether it's a play or a screenplay, I almost always begin with character. I've always thought that's the really good screenplays is character. Because people oftentimes will say, "Oh, I want to write an original story," to which I say, "Good luck." Because
and what do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean by that? Why is that? Why does it take so much longer?
Technically, I forget the number. I think it's 7. Basically, there are 7 basic story lines.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's nothing. And so you're not going to write something original in terms of a story idea. But what makes a script, I believe anyway, what makes each story original are the characters who tell the story. So that's why I'm very much character. My scripts are very much character driven, and I think that's true across the board, whether it's a play or a screenplay.
So when it comes to writing scripts, like where do you get your characters from? So those are things that you have to take into consideration. What type of script you want to write? How do you get those characters? Is it by looking and just walking around outside? Is it by people that are in your family, friend circle? What brings all that together for you?
I usually borrow from a little of everywhere. I think that almost every character, I probably have friends from my past who will go see something of mine and say, "Wait, he's using my name." But I never use somebody's full name. I'll use one friend's first name, another friend's last name. So to
protect the guilty, of course, right?
Yeah, right. Tell the whole story, but not the whole story. Like
right. Most of it really depends on the story I want to tell as to which character. Then I have to figure out, okay, who would be the best characters to tell the story. And then if I get stuck, people always say, "Well, what do you do if you run into a writer's block?" And I always say, "Well, change something, anything." So one character I may have written as a male, and I go, "Well, what would happen if that character was a female, or if the character's older? What if they were younger?" And sometimes that'll get me off get me out of the block just by changing something, even randomly, just picking something to change.
So what was one of your favorite characters that you came to mind with that actually was in one of your plays, and why?
Oh boy.
And by the way, can I ask this? Wait a minute before you answer that question. While you're pondering that, real quick, 2 quick things. Number one, folks at home, if you have a question, I know there are a lot of people that are actually tuned in here right now. So if you have a question, you can actually ask it in the chat, and I'll try to read it. So if something comes up for you, or if you really get enthralled here with something that you would like to hear Richard speak to, please, by all means, put it in the chat, and we'll ask him. But the other thing is, I guess, is just, as you think about how many screenplays and award-winning, by the way, playwright, I need to mention that, because you've done things with Sacramento Theater Company, with a lot of different theater companies, in addition to screenplays. And I know there's a lot of differences, but how many would you say between plays and screenplays, on maybe ballpark, how many do you think you've done? Before you answer Lulu's. Yeah.
All together, probably close to 100.
Wow. Okay.
They're not all full length pieces. Some of the plays are shorter.
So I think it's going to probably be hard for you to pick out maybe 1 or 2. Go ahead, Jude, answer Lulu's question.
I'm not sure I can answer. I have a lot of favorite characters, but I can't really.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot that you.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, Lulu. I'm just wondering, how do you choose, right? At some point, if you have that many screenplays and stage plays. Now, can I ask you this question, because you do have experience in both worlds? Talk to me a little bit, if you don't mind. What's the difference between a screenplay and a stage play? I mean, are they differences without too much distinctions, or are there a lot of things that you really have to nail on a stage play that you don't have to worry about, or vice versa on a screen?
There are some. Usually, when I'm teaching, somebody will say, "Well, how do I know if I'm writing a play or a screenplay?" And the simple answer, which is probably too simple, but I say, "Look, if you find that your characters want to talk a lot, especially to one another, you probably want to write a play." Because obviously, with a screenplay, it's there's much more visual. It's very visual. So like if I'm writing a play, and a character, he'll describe the sunset. If I'm writing a screenplay, I'll show you the sunset. I don't have to have somebody describe it. So it's really that's probably the biggest difference. I have adapted some of my plays and turned them into screenplays. But then if I do that, I have to then open up the play and try to create more, exterior stuff. And the limitations, I have fewer limitations with the screenplay because I can go anywhere. With a play, generally speaking, you can't do more than one set, maybe two if you're lucky. And you can't really do more than 4 or 5 characters.
So well, that's a huge. I mean, you're limited by the environment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you submit a play to a theater and they open it up and they see there are 10 characters, they probably won't even read it.
Oh, wow.
And unless it's a musical, which is a whole nother genre, and then they expect there to be more characters. But I don't think I have a play that the most I have is 6 characters in any of my plays. Most of them are 3 to 4. I've got a couple of what you would call two-handers where they're just 2 characters. And those are challenging because keeping people engaged with just 2 characters on stage that's tough. That's tough.
Well, listen, speaking of characters, Richard, we're gonna jump out to a little break here right now, just because we want to tease the fact that we have this upcoming Sacramento Film Festival, which is going to be chock full of characters. And I'm not talking about Lulu and myself. See how I threw you in there, Lulu? I'm talking about all these wonderful movies that have been submitted. And Richard will be with us. Again, the film festival is happening December 14th through 18th. It'll be our finale for the 2022 season. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Check this out. Yeah, that's right. 27th year. I mean, in spite of COVID, we still did a 2020 and a 2021, and this year's kind of been, kind of starts and stops, but definitely very excited to get back in the saddle, as it were. And Richard, I got to say, one of the most fun aspects of the festival is deconstructing plays and screenplays and working with you, and of course. Dr. Lou Hunter from the UCLA Screenwriting program, and kind of really trying to understand what these screenwriters and filmmakers are trying to do and help them. What for you? What is it? What gives you the kick when you're working with young minds? And by the way, I happen to know that you do a program at the prison helping actual inmates. Is that correct? And tell me if you mind talking about that a little bit.
No, not at all. I've been. I guess about 20 years ago, I got a friend of mine was teaching acting at the California Youth Authority, and she invited me down, and then she had to stop teaching, so she asked me if I would take over, and I did, and then the word got out, and then I started getting calls from all of the adult prisons. So I've taught at Vacaville, Folsom. Wow. Ewell Creek, pretty much all over working and with and mostly in the prisons I teach writing. I don't really do any.
Okay. But and I guess it's the same question. What's gratifying about that, and then what's gratifying about teaching screenwriting students?
Well, I think the gratifying thing about working with the guys in the prison is the work. I've seen some incredible work. Last year, one of my guys got nominated to be a California Poet Laureate. So I've had a number of really, really wonderful writers come through my class. Yeah. Oh, nice. And but probably the most gratifying thing is for those people who think, well, why should you teach these kinds of things in a prison. They don't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. In the 20 years that I've been doing it, of all of the guys who have been released, because people forget that most of these guys are going to get out eventually, there has not been, I have not had a single guy that I worked with who's ever recommitted any kind of crime. So,
wow.
So I know the programs make a difference. They really impact these guys, and they actually inspired me to write it. I have a screenplay sort of based on that experience. So that was, and it was fun to write because I already had the experience. So I changed the character of me quite a bit, but it was fun, and
you had to make him less handsome and debonnaire. See,
I actually made him much less interested in going in. He didn't really want to.
Because you were into it. I mean, you didn't have to get talked into it, did you?
No. I really enjoyed it the minute I walked in. Really, it's a little intimidating at first because you're thinking, oh, I'm going into a prison and I'm going to get old, and but it's a completely a different experience, really. Plus, they don't let anybody. You can't get into the class unless you've got a pretty clean record within the prison. So
many lives that you changed as well. I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that don't know the path that they're taking, and they probably would have never gone into writing if you never went in there and showed them and walked through that path with them. So
yeah, and then a lot of them when they first come to the class, they're just coming to kill time. They don't really want to take the class. But most of them eventually come around, and that's the gratifying part, is to see guys who, were kind of humbugging the whole class, and then suddenly they're involved and they really enjoy it. And then a lot of them get published, and that guys get stuff published. And we're actually I teach 2 classes now, and each class is working on a group play that hopefully we're going to perform at some point in time. We already did one once, and I got Danny Glover to come out to listen to the reading and then talk to the guys, and he was great. He couldn't have been more gracious.
That must have been a real kick for the guys, though.
Well, it's funny.
I mean, here's this Hollywood movie star coming out.
Well, the only I can tell you a quick funny story about Danny coming in with me, because when he came in, there was a woman at the gate, and every time, and I've been going in for this back for 8 years, she never smiled, barely said hello, even though I'd say, hey, how you doing? How's your day? Nothing. I'd get nothing out of it. So the day I came in with Danny, first she saw me, and it was the same thing. Yeah, okay, where's your ID? She's seen me for 8 years, and she's asking for my ID. So I give her my ID, and then then Danny has to show her his driver's license, and suddenly her whole demeanor changed. She got this big old smile on her face, and from that day forward, I was her best friend.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, see that? Danny Glover making friends and influencing people.
There you go.
Would have got that nice smile 8 years ago if you did it a little sooner.
I brought it
right.
Yeah.
Okay, Lulu. I know your synapses are firing, young lady. What? Give me one. Let's get one more question out of you from for Mr. Broadhurst.
What do you like teaching more? Like, is it plays or is it screenplays? What's something that brings? Because when you guys were talking a few moments ago, I know the constrictions that you guys have when it comes to screenplays and Broadway or plays. Like, which one do you brings more joy to you?
And what would you like to teach? Because we got an opportunity here coming up at the film festival. Maybe some stuff that we haven't thought of before or haven't done.
I like there's such different mediums, but so it's hard. I like teaching both, actually. It's just I try to be pretty practical when I'm working with people, in the sense that the chances, I always tell people this, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I'll say, look, the chances of getting a screenplay actually made are slim and none, and slim just left town. So I encourage people try to discourage. I said, look, if you still want to write a screenplay, go for it. I'll help you in any way I can. But you got to understand that it's a really, really competitive business, and good luck with that. Whereas with plays, I belong to what organization called the Playwrights Center out of Minneapolis, and every month they send me a listing of probably anywhere from 20 to 30 theaters all over the country that are looking for new material, and anybody can submit.
And some of them somewhat prestigious. I mean, I know that your work has featured in a lot of prestigious theaters, and I add to that list the Sacramento Theater Company, which you've had several works produced over at the STC, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, it's funny because when I talk about, you can start out a great play. There's a very good chance that somebody along the way is going to want to turn it into a film. If you look at someone like William Inge, who actually I was a guest playwright at William Inge Theater Festival years ago, and he had 4 Broadway hits in a row: Picnic, Dark at the Top of the Stairs. I forget what the other 2 were. Well, anyway, there were 4 of them. All 4 of them eventually became films. Come Back Little Sheba was another one. And then after he'd had all that success with his plays becoming screenplays, then he wrote the screenplay for Splendor in the Grass and won an Academy Award.
Wow.
So, he started out as a playwright who kind of segued into film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that it's not a bad way to get eyes on your work.
Sure.
I
just got to tell you, man, you got my appetite wet, and for all those folks of you that are watching at home, Richard, again, I've said it, I'm going to say it one more time. He's going to be joining us at the Sacramento Film Festival 2022 grand finale. Richard, but just to wet their whistle one last time before we let you go, what would you if you don't get a chance, and I hope that you do come to the film festival. And by the way, you can go to californiafilm.net right now and RSVP now. We're putting the final touches on the schedule now, but you can RSVP now. That way you can, hear all about it when it comes up so you can get those tickets. But if you were going to leave somebody that's an aspiring writer with just anything, little tidbit right now, what would it be?
Right. That's it. I mean, I try to write, even if it's, I've written as much bad stuff as I have good stuff, but I never throw anything away. I always keep it somewhere, because somewhere along the line, I've gone back to something and thought, oh, you know what? I think I've solved the problem. I'm going to go back to this. But you're not going to have any problems to solve if you don't just write. And don't worry about especially the first draft. First drafts are that's all they are. There's an old saying which it's used all the time because it's true, and that is that all writing is rewriting.
I like that.
So when your first draft, that's all it is. It's more like an outline of what you want. And then you go back and start doing the work. The real work comes in the rewriting. But you can't do it if you don't write to begin with. So that's just right.
Wow. Well, right on, as our good buddy Dr. Lou Hunter likes to say, right on with your bad self. We're going to run out to a little bit of a break right now. This teaser here is for the Digital Odyssey Conference. This is, again, another one of the day-long conferences in addition to the American Screenwriting Conference that you'll be able to partake in with the upcoming Sacramento Film Festival. It's been an absolute pleasure, Mr. Broadhurst. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by another wonderful guy, the film composer, John Dahl Honore. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Wow, Lulu. I don't know about you, but my head is spinning with all the ideas that Mr. Broadhurst has brought to us already.
It was a lot. I mean, he brought a lot of good information, things that I didn't know the difference in either. So I was like, oh, that's how you deal with that. But it was exciting.
What do you think? You ever see yourself writing a screenplay, maybe?
You know what? I don't know if my mind goes that vastly out there to where you have to really have a unique type of mind to be able to write.
Well, you do. That's why I'm asking you this. You do have a unique mind. That's why I'm asking you.
I don't know. I might have to
a lot of balls juggled in the air. So I figure maybe you're just creative. Maybe creative people, can have multiple outlets, right?
I thought about writing a kid's book before, only because I have kids, and I was just like, maybe something like that. But I might have to sit down, Mr. and then, pick his brain a little bit and see if that's something that I can. We only need a couple pages.
hey, no, really, that's a very good point that you're making, because that's exactly how a lot of people start. They'll dip their toe in the water because they're afraid. You and I were talking about this off camera earlier, but they're afraid of their ignorance, right?
Right.
And the thing about it is ignorance is not the same thing as stupidity. Ignorance just means you don't know, and you get the technique. Part of it can be trained, right? The technique can be trained, but that creativity, that an original story idea, which as he said is hard to come by, but if you've got something, a kernel of something, you can develop it just by starting to dip your toe in that water and maybe take a class, come out to the film festival, meet guys like Richard and guys like John who we're about to talk to. I don't know, man. That's how a lot of careers I think got started. I mean, how'd you become a model?
A person that I knew, he was in the business, and he was like, hey, I need you to do a photo shoot. And I did it. And then I did it for a few years and I stopped. And then I ended up, they were doing LA Fashion Week, and they needed some people out there. They told me to submit a couple of photos. I didn't think I was going to make it. And I was like, whatever. Somebody was like, just do it. I did it. And within a few days later, they're like, we want you. And then that's where that came from. So I didn't think I could join him today. So I get it when you're saying, just try, especially at film festival. I mean, I'll probably have to come out that day and come talk.
We're gonna rope you into it, Lulu. We're gonna have to figure out a job for you so you don't have a choice. We'll make it
right.
You never know. Might be written, produced, directed by Lulu.
I got you, man. There's a lot of people out there that don't know where to start, or don't think that their work is good enough to be able, until they come out to the film festivals and talk to somebody about it. And it's just like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. Well, also too, when people get to see the works of filmmakers, and you go into a darkened theater and you see a movie, and, most of the time the lights go up and you walk out and you're just left to your own thoughts. But then, you're in a film festival, the lights go up and there's the filmmaker, right? And we are there to tell you what was on their mind, what was on their heart, and what the creative process was like. And that's a whole nother world. Never mind if you even want to be a filmmaker or whatever. I mean, never mind even that. Just the whole idea of being a kind of an impassioned art consumer. So y'all, if you're watching, I mean, this film festival is known for Academy Award winning works. Before they won the Academy Award, we've premiered a lot of things over the years. Speaking of premiering things, we have to premiere a gentleman here who actually, he has come on once before and chatted with us. Of course, I'm talking about my good buddy John Honore. And in the way of a little brief introduction, I gotta kind of reiterate. I had said that he does a lot of work for television and film, and we want to kind of pick his brain about the television side of it, because as you're working in this industry, there's a lot of ways, like, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that have to go get the day job, right?
Yes.
Working for the state, working for the man, whatever the deal is, while they're trying to make their dreams come true. And it's very seldom, honestly, that somebody can make a living at this to where they don't need a day job. So folks at home, think about it. If you want to ask a question, now's your opportunity. We're going to bring in my good buddy, Mr. John Dahl Honore. John.
John, there he is. Hey, hello.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're chilling like villains, and it looks like you got a little kind of easy evening going on there.
You know, I'm hanging out. I don't know. Let me see if I move this way. You can see
Oh,
look at little
Honey
is.
passed
That's
out on
Honey.
the couch.
doggy.
But yeah, we're just hanging out, having an evening.
Yeah, man. Now, I want to jump right into this with you because I don't think a lot of people understand very much about the life of a composer, and or we think about guys like John Williams or Hans Zimmer or Danny Elfman for that matter, and we just kind of see them on this level, but we don't see all the work that went into their name on the end credits of those blockbuster tentpole movies. For a gentleman such as yourself, let me reverse it for you. Tell us what your main bread and butter is right now. What do you do mainly right now that keeps the lights on and keeps Honey fed back there?
I mean, I presume you mean aside from the prostitution.
Yes, aside from the male gigolo work that you do, yes.
Besides the weekend jobs at night.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So basically, I write. I work on a team that writes library music for CBS. So and CBS Productions, which is now part of Viacom, or Viacom is part of them. I don't know how it all works, but so there's a whole bunch of television shows, and like Entertainment Tonight, The Doctors, which apparently just got canceled, Rachel Ray. There's a whole slew of Dr. Phil, whole slew of things that we write music for. So it's a fun job because it's you have to be a bit of a ninja, and every week is a little different. I'm working on maybe an orchestral. Actually, just this last week, ended up doing 3 pieces. One was an orchestral Christmassy piece because we're getting ready for Christmas. Another was like a dance pop version of Joy to the World, which is in the public domain now, so no one's going to get beaten to death for using the melody. And then I did a rock metal piece, and 3 things that would normally involve 3 different artists. That was my week last week.
Wow.
Fully.
And by the way, Lulu, I got to tell you something. So John here the other day, I was so mad I wasn't there when I'm sure he made sure that I wasn't anywhere near the scene. But Dwayne Wiggins from Tony came over John's house. I don't know if I should even be saying this, but working on a little piece of music. And I think Too Short, E40, some other like big name rappers were on the. So this guy's got all different types of chops.
It was 50 Cent, E40, 8 Ball. And Dwayne didn't come over. He just emailed it and asked me to do some mastering, which is one of the things that it's not necessarily like my, I don't go around saying, oh, I'm a mastering engineer. Right. But people over the years have taken notice of my work, and they're like, hey, can you make my stuff sound good like that too? And usually I can. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it being a lot of fun. Now I am reading in the chat here. Antonio says the relationship between music and other forms of art, such as painting, video, and cinema, has become increasingly important. How do you see this relationship yourself, and how far do you feel does music relate to our other senses? I guess how does the music enhance everything else that's going on?
Wow.
I know, heavy duty.
That was
It's cool.
We have very smart questioners in this chat.
Question. I see myself as a storyteller, sort of an assistant storyteller, when it comes to doing visual media. And even though Marty, because I know initially we'd planned to take a look at a little visual thing, and I was going to actually share the session. But I realize now with this thing, I could share a piece of video later if you're interested, to give you an idea of kind of what working the picture is like. But it's all about storytelling, and it's all about emotional direction. So music composer, when you're working to media of some kind, is just the title. The real gig is emotional direction and helping tell a story of some kind.
And
everybody's going to do that a little differently, so
absolutely.
That's the fun of it and the heartbreak.
Right.
All right, I got another question here. What's your favorite instrument?
I'm a keyboard player, so that's kind of my thing. Through the magic of technology, I can have an orchestra at my fingertips, or a heavy metal band, or what. And I know you're thinking, I don't know, man. I've heard some cheesy guitar stuff pulled off on keyboard.
Listen,
I'm telling you, man, you couldn't tell the difference nowadays.
Oh, man, you did. I gotta get. And
technology is caught up. And I know you, Marty, personally have heard some of the stuff, but
it sounded great.
The layman out there,
I was very impressed by you when I found out that you work with Testament and Live to tell the story.
The
heavy metal band Testament.
It was a brief stint as a monitor mix engineer, and luckily I did, in fact, escape with my life.
Well, listen, speaking of escaping with our life, I would be remiss and probably would not escape with my life if I didn't really quickly tease out one of the main features that's going to be playing at the Sacramento Film Festival. So we're going to put you on a little bit of a cliffhanger. We're going to bring John right back in just a second. But before we do that, this is a movie called The Christmas Tapes, and it's kind of a found footage piece. You're going to see some very familiar faces in here, but I'm going to let the trailer speak for itself, and then I'll tell you how you can watch it. Stay right there.
Do you want me to just go check? I'll show you there's nothing out there. It's probably nothing.
Are you expecting somebody?
No.
Hey, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. My car broke down and my phone's dead.
Oh, no, come on in.
Are you sure?
Of course, it's Christmas.
Gee, what's your Christmas tradition?
Every Christmas, we do watch a movie.
Making the next great Christmas movie.
What's in the box?
It's not midnight yet.
They let in a super weird guy.
Good hands, take off. Rachel, go! Get over here. Cast photo, here we go. You asked what was in my box?
I don't want to know what's in the box.
Well, yeah, you do, because you asked about it. He doesn't show you any good films, because he's not original. So you're going to take this and you're going to put it in, and we're going to get started, all right?
We're here with our very own Christmas scarecrow.
No one will ship a human being. Luckily, I found this guy, so he's going to deliver me right to the front door.
Christmas, you've got to give something back. I am the piper. The piper has to be paid.
We were looking forward to Christmas also,
because we're about to do a Christmas seance. This is going to be a good one.
Where are we? Ian, you do not want to sit down now.
What is that, Harry?
Get down.
I don't even know what's coming. Settle in.
All right, folks. All right. That you probably saw a couple of you horror fans. See, I know you thought that the Sacramento Film Festival was just going to let you down for Halloween. right? That we were just going to go all the way through Halloween and you weren't going to get no love. No, actually, we're just saving it for Christmas. So we're going to have it in December. But that's called the Christmas Tapes. I know you saw a couple of familiar faces there, including Greg Sestero and Vernon Wells. So all you horror fans, we got you. Did that look kind of scary to you? Look like, I mean, what are you thinking there, Lulu?
I don't really do horror movies, so it was just a twist to bring the horror into like a holiday that everybody loves. And things that's just all cuddles and bunnies and stuff. So it was definitely crazy.
Well, let me ask our man John Dahl Honore. And by the way, folks, if you're just joining us, we are talking to John Honore, who is a composer extraordinaire. What did you think about that trailer in terms of the musical side of it, in terms of trying to build suspense? How did that tone strike you?
You know, like I said, everybody does something a little different. I thought it was really well done. The trailer I thought was kind of funny. The dude with the tapes reminds me of a meme I saw today. Whether it's a guy with a gun. And he says, I lied. I don't have Netflix. You're going to listen to my beats now. And, hey, captive audience. That's a new way to do it.
Yeah, man. Hey, Gage writes, I am not watching that one alone. So Gage, you're going to have to get yourself a date.
Yeah, and, I like to watch scary movies, but it has to be in daylight.
Yeah,
that too.
I'm with Lulu on that, man. Real life is kind of scary enough for me usually. But I'll tell you what, man, you can get me out there if I'm in a good headspace. You can get me out there. I'll definitely be out there on December the 14th. By the way, that's going to be playing at the Tower Theater at 7:30 on December the 14th. All the details at californiafilm.net right there. So Lulu, now that you have this opportunity and you're kind of getting a chance to meet John, what comes up for you? What do you want to ask him?
Just what made you get into the music part of everything?
10 years of piano lessons as a kid. Always having an interest in the technology. Being not a terrible performer. I'm a good musician, but I'm not comfortable being an on-stage guy. So, I would tour doing sound for other people and sort of got sucked into the studio side of things and did that for many years. One opportunity led to the next, and I was fortunate enough to work for this production company that provides CBS with music. And the only bummer with that is that my name is never attached, so it's always the production company. So even though millions of people literally on any given day could hear something I've done, it's my IMDb is a ghost town. It's pathetic.
Well, we're gonna help you.
That's why we're trying to do more of this fun stuff, and maybe meet some local friends and get some music out there.
You know what? Not a lot of money in the local scene, but that's okay, because as you establish that base, even though you've already got this whole other career established, you never know where it works into. Already I think we've made some connections that could really I think bear a lot of fruit in terms of theatrical. 3-act play, major motion picture scores. So I'm looking for a lot.
Business of relationships. You
betcha.
And
speaking of not relationships, how's that for a segue? Technical tips. That's what Indo wants to know. Indo's writing. She wants to know any technical tips when it comes to audio engineering or composing. Obviously, you've got some students here that are listening to you.
Well, I think
Indo, you need to come to the festival so you can talk to them. business of really.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to talk about at the thing. But
well, can you preview that for us? I mean, just give us a little idea of what you want to accomplish at the thing that we do at the film festival.
Well, so I recently did a thing for a scoring competition, and it's like 1:45 long, and I thought that would be a fun thing to kind of break down, because it's a shifting sort of story moment by moment over that 1.5 minutes or so, and kind of gives an opportunity to look at both the technology and the storytelling side.
Wow.
And I could, if you'd like, I can play you the clip this evening, and then I think we need to figure out the technology a little better so that we can accomplish our actual behind the scenes look. But if you're interested in taking a look at that, I can try to see if we can do that.
Well, what do you think, Johnny? Johnny's been awfully quiet back there. What do you think, Johnny? You think that's a thing we can do? Is he able to share screen, or is that not a thing? I think typically you would have to Johnny would have to have it in advance to play it, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think, Johnny?
Well, there is a share video file option, and let me see.
Right, let's try it.
Let me see. I don't know. This is going to be our first.
Hey man, this is only live TV. What
exactly? what could possibly?
Nobody's watching. We're on the internet.
Okay. Well, hey, this is great, because it says, whoops, it looks like the video file doesn't have a video track. And so
I think I know it. All right, look.
You know
I'm
what?
Give you a moment to get that together. I have another
don't
video
worry about it
right now, which is an encouragement to folks to submit to the Sacramento Film Festival. Stay right there. We're going to see if we can get our act together. Stay right there, folks. We'll be right back. That's right, folks. It's almost upon us, the end of the 2022. That's our 27th year of the Sacramento International Film Festival, but we will very, very soon, very shortly, be taking submissions again for next year, because the beat goes on. Now, I don't know if you were able to figure that thing out with the video file share there, John?
No. It seems that this particular platform is just weird. So.
Okay. You know what? I've encountered that before. There's a way to do it. What's that, Lou?
I said that just means that they all have to come out in December to the film festival.
That's right. I'm on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I'm really jacked about the idea of what you want to do, because I think when people actually see a session coming together, then so many light bulbs go off that maybe we didn't even know that we had in our head to go off. But Lulu, we got maybe about 2 or 3 more minutes. What's coming up for you? What light bulbs are going off for you right now that you might want to pose in the form of a question to John here?
Well, I know that you've worked with different on television and different films when it comes to music. So how do you get the images of the music that you want to be able to put on those certain scenes? Like what does that take? What is that indoor? What is it?
So when I'm doing the library music stuff, I'll get assignments that are not necessarily related to picture. And then when the editors of a show like Entertainment Tonight or something are putting together a particular segment, they're going to go through the database and there's a ton of different search criteria they could use to find just the right piece of music they need for that segment. And then we also do bed mixes. So, the first mix might have the melody, and then there'll be a bed mix that is just kind of the rhythm section, if you will. And we'll do several different versions of the piece so that the editors have options. But as far as composing to picture, then that just brings us back to story. It's all about, the story that you're trying to tell.
Okay. And is that coming from music that you've made? Is it coming from artists that you've worked with? Because I know when it comes to different pictures, they have certain songs from different artists that come on there. So how does that work out when it comes to those?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily, I'm not part of the artist music. I'm more of, the underscore, the emotional direction, the orchestral bits or whatever it is that are sort of doing the heavy lifting there.
Gotcha. Well, I just have to say, and I know that when you're working in that kind of a realm, and you and I have talked about this before about the desire to want more interaction and interplay, and that one of the things about film generally is that it is a team sport, and that you are working with the director and with other folks that are going to inform those emotions and help you kind of guide that storytelling process. So folks,
absolutely.
I just want you to know, right? Yeah. And I want folks at home to know, we got to run out of here right now, but John is on our network. It's californiafilm.net, and it's right there on the bottom of your screen. And by the way, so is Richard Broadhurst. So if you want to talk to these guys, all you got to do is go there, californiafilm.net, and you can find them on there. You got to join as a member, and that's free. So don't worry, no salesman will call. You'll also get all the information about the upcoming festivals and the ideas and the opportunities that we can have to meet in the flesh and kind of share all that stuff. Lulu, last question. Give him a good one because we got to get out of here. We got less than 30 seconds. A quick one.
I like you put me on the spotlight. This is amazing.
Marty is so good at that. That's like his thing.
It's my forte, throwing people on the spot, under the bus.
Under the bus, exactly.
What about what you do is something that you love, that you can sit here and tell our younger generation to motivate them to actually go for their dream and what they want to do?
You got 30 seconds to tell us, John. Hit it.
I love making music and I love telling stories. And I've done enough crummy jobs in my life that I can truly appreciate the fact that I can sit in my living room here and have a world of storytelling opportunities.
Hallelujah, brother. Hey, and back at you. We're so happy to have you on our team and with our wonderful California Film and Sacramento Film Festival folks. Our family, and same to you, Lulu, because it really does. It takes a team and it takes a village, if you will, to raise a kid, and it takes a village to make a movie. There you go. We thank you guys so much at home too, because again, none of this would be possible without you. Please do remember it is that Sacramento Film Festival, and again, you can find out all the deets on it, sacramentofilmfestival.com, or just go to californiafilm.net and meet all the wonderful fine people like Lulu and John, and of course, Mr. Richard Broadhurst. And again, with that, we want to thank you so very much, Lulu. It's been an absolute pleasure. You going to come back and do it again?
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. We're going to do it. Me and you, Lulu, and Johnny, we love you, and all of our interns, all of our staff, everybody that works behind the scenes that you haven't even seen here today. We love all of y'all. Thank you so much. We'll see you the next time on The Breakdown. Peace out.
Have a good night.